Much can happen in the world of windsurfing in a year, and 2003 was no exception. This year's PWA World Windsurfing Tour visited a host of great locations, and for the most part, the conditions were spot on. But what marked this year's tour, apart from many of its predecessors, is the emergence of a breed of young guns as a powerful force to be reckoned with, bringing in new styles and new moves with an attitude that's pushing the sport to new heights. The first stop on this year's tour was in Gran Canaria for the Vargas Aguimas Wave Grand Prix. All the top sailors were there, as was the wind, but it's the waves that prove elusive. A popular destination for tourists from all over Europe, the Canary Islands can be found off the west coast of Africa, with Gran Canaria boasting the capital of Las Palmas. The beach at Vargas is situated on the east coast of Gran Canaria, and the island is known by windsurfing enthusiasts the world over as a top sailing destination after a number of successful contests. With reliable trade winds and usually with good swells rolling in from the ocean, Gran Canaria has hosted pro windsurfing events for almost 20 years now, and a thriving windsurfing community has grown up here.
It's the third year now we've come to Vargas. Obviously Gran Canaria has always had a strong relationship with windsurfing, particularly with the PWA through the Pozo event, but this beach actually gives us slightly more side shore down the line conditions when it works, so it's a nice complement to the onshore conditions we get in Pozo in the summer. We've had two events now, the two previous ones have both been successful. We've had a result of both, so hoping to keep that 100% record going this year. The women's tour is definitely developing. It's very encouraging to come to the first event of the year and have 10 girls competing. I mean, we've obviously got a strong local contingent here, but we've also got girls like Tiffany Ward, who's come all the way from the US. We've got Karen, obviously, from Switzerland, and a few Austrians competing. So we've got a good mixed fleet. We've got a lot of guys coming up. There's people like Cowley Seeley from Brazil, who's an incredibly talented sailor, but just has been unlucky so far in competition. Some of the freestyle sailors that are making the move across now from flat water into waves are really starting to threaten. Ricardo Campello only ranked, I think, 60th in waves last year, but coming into this year is definitely a threat for some of the big guns. I think we're on the brink of an evolution in wave sailing, where a lot of the more radical freestyle tricks are actually going to cross over back into waves. There's certainly some new moves coming up again through the young guys in the sport who've kind of thrown out the rule book of how they're supposed to sail, and doing stuff that's just so different and so radical that once that transfers across into the wave discipline, it's going to open things right up.
And so the first day down on the beach at Vargas, and the globe-trotting windsurfers are all here, gearing up for the week ahead.
Today entry day, so we just get our rigs rigged and make sure that our gear is top.
It's the first event of the year, and you've been training all winter and you've been looking forward to this event. So it's one of the events that gets your heart pumping the most,
Wave riding counts a lot here, and of course some good jumps. You need to have a lot of speed in the inside of the beach, and because the waves are very close to the shore.
Generally the times I've been here, it's been pretty good. We just got to hope that we get some waves and wind, and if we get the two combinations, this spot can actually be really good.
As soon as the conditions are sailable, the first rounds of the competition are underway. Jason Polikow is showing his skill after returning from injury, straight out there ripping up the waves as both the young guns and the experienced stars go through their paces in the first few heats. Polikow is showing the way with powerful forward loops, even in these light conditions, as is Britain's young Robbie Swift. He faces Tonky Franz from Bonaire in perhaps the biggest heat of the first round. Tweaked tabletops from Swift sees him pull off the result and push through. Next, it's Australia's Luke Walmsley against Spain's Carlos Fernandez. With the sailors struggling in the light conditions, the heat is eventually put on hold until competition is deemed possible. Back on the beach though, a reminder that windsurfing can be a truly physical sport, requiring extraordinary levels of fitness. It can also cause severe injuries, and no one escapes.
Did my ankle this winter in Cape Town. Just coming down from a real big ford. Just landed on it, twisted it.
We got scars.
I'll show you. Scars.
This is a Kozo back loop that ended up in the surgery room.
Back loop session with Derek Joe. Who could do the biggest one? I think I won, but it cost me my leg.
I don't know if you can see that. They had to just cut it open.
I count around over 200 scars on my legs.
Operation, 2 pins. You know, part of the game.
Play hard, right? Play hard.
Play hard.
As the week progresses, the wind continues to blow, but the waves aren't cooperating. So race director Klaus Michel decides to run an alternative format with the introduction of an expression session.
Also tomorrow afternoon is ultra maneuver kind of expression session. So all of you competitors who are interested, you can sign in with Frankie here from now until 1:30. There will be prize money of 10,000 euros. We have a heat, let's say 5 minutes long or 8 minutes long, and it's only going to be the most radical maneuver that counts.
And the first heats of the competition do indeed see some radical action, with everyone out there pulling loops, spocks, chachos and the rest, stunning the crowd with their technique and skill in these early rounds. The first semi-final, and Vidar Jensen is in top form, here with an excellent forward loop. But it was the South American young guns, Cauli Cidi from Brazil, making this one-footed forward loop, and Venezuela's Douglas Diaz with a fast punch. Incredible in these conditions, who are scoring the points. And it's Douglas and Cowley who advance through to the finals. The second semi, and Ricardo Campello from Brazil opens his account with a shaka, a near perfect move invented by him, and this is the first time he's pulled it in a contest. Robbie Swift goes for the same move, higher, but can't finish it in quite the same style. Also on form is Tonky Franz from Bonaire with an excellent speed grubby into a 360. But Campello is in his element in these light conditions and goes through to the finals alongside Swift, who is also right in tune. With a brief hold in the event, time to meet one of the top wave sailors from Hawaii. Tiffany Ward has been setting the sport alight with her sensational form, both on and off the water.
Windsurfing's been a part of my life since I could walk. Both parents were avid windsurfers, and it just, slowly evolved to where, I couldn't drive a car, so I could go fast on the water, and I started to get little jumps in there and stuff, and it kind of just was a vicious cycle from then. Windsurfing, I think, is truly a lifestyle, and it's something that you have to embrace. It's a way of eating, sleeping, and breathing. You're at a beach 8 hours a day sometimes, you know, like at the contest, we're here all day, and even though the conditions aren't ideal, you're here and it's, you know, you're putting your time in just like a job. It's a great thing. Windsurfing, no matter where you go, there is the inner family. You know, you could go to Waddell in San Francisco and come over here to Spain, and you might see the same guy you park next to. And doing it professionally is a dream come true for me, and I think that, you know, even if I'm not doing it in 5 years, that it would probably be the highlight of my life.
Into the women's final now, and as the women head out, the winds are around 10 to 12 knots, but still the waves are small. Diana Moreno from Gran Canaria gets going with a spock, showing that the standard of women's freestyle has improved tremendously in the past couple of years, while Switzerland's Karen Yagi goes for a shove-it, a very difficult move to land, but she's up and away again. Now Anne-Marie Reichman from Holland comes in with some speed into a forward loop and just sticks the landing. Ibaya Moreno moves in and lands a beautiful forward loop, followed immediately by Yagi, who doesn't quite nail the landing this time. But it's Daida Moreno who comes through, finishing off with a perfect back loop to win the contest. Into the men's final with all 4 sailors 20 years old or less, showing the raw talent this new generation of freestyle elite possesses. Campello shines with a beautiful punch, his move working perfectly. Cowley has been quiet, but now he's clue first into a grubby. Ricardo up again and a super high shaka, too high in fact, couldn't get the sail rotated through the wind, but another great effort. Robbie Swift heading in and a stylish one-handed spock. That smile says it all, right in front of the spectators. Robbie's really on fire, going for a double loop. If he had landed that, it would have been a real winner. But a perfect shaka from Ricardo at last, and that has to be the winning move, and right in front of Robbie. Ricardo on a wave, cuts back, and a roundhouse 360 to finish. What an awesome final. These guys setting new standards in the sport right in front of our eyes. The results are announced immediately, with Daida winning the women's final and Ricardo Campello the men's. Perhaps an omen of things to come on the tour.
I went pretty good. Like, we didn't have much waves, but we had this new fun event, like the expression session thing. And my new move came out. Finally, I could do it in the heat. And I'm pretty happy with first place.
Really stoked about what we did today. We had quite a long week. We couldn't get to have any waves yet, but we had a fun race today. Everybody had fun. And I'm pretty stoked about winning the event.
The next stop is in Catalunya, Costa Brava for the freestyle qualifier, and it's an impressive turnout for the €25,000 prize money. Joining at the semi-final stage, we see Dutchman Remco de Weert continue to storm through the competition, pulling off move after move. Austrian Frank Lewis also has a good heat, but can't match the Dutchman's form. In the other semi-final, Mariano Esteville fights hard, but the 17-year-old Frenchman Nicolas Agassian puts on a masterful display to come through and join de Weert in the final. The winds drop a notch during the 6-minute final, allowing Remco to display his early planing ability and light wind skills. After nailing a sweet spock on his first run to the beach, the Flying Dutchman manages to jibe, pump onto the plane, and pull the only flaka of the final. Throughout the heat, Remco scores highly for the diversity, technical difficulty, and style to his moves. Agassian replies with several Spock variations, but Remco's display is clearly superior, and first place in this single elimination goes to the Dutchman. As he waits to see who he'll face in the double elimination final, Remco explains just why he enjoys freestyle so much and why he's really training to specialize in this discipline.
The best thing I like about freestyle is because in freestyle the whole heat counts. I mean, if you go for a wave session, I mean, your best 3 jumps count, your best 3 wave rides, and then you have a little bit of overall impression that counts. But in freestyle it's the whole thing, so you need to concentrate on your whole heat, and that's what I like a lot about it. And also for the moves are endless, so you can try every different combination you can imagine, and you can invent your own moves more or less. There's so many maneuvers in freestyle that it's incredible. Yeah, that's what I like a lot. Even if the wind drops, for example, you can do so stupid stuff if you're not planing, just to fill up like 15 seconds, or because you're not planing, and then you can create your own choreography, or what do you call it in English?
Back to the contest, in the double elimination semi-final pitches Austrian Christian Sammer against Nicholas Agassian. Sammer is in awesome form, nailing every single maneuver in the 8-minute heat and advancing into the final against De Weerdt for the title. Straight from the start, Sammer is firing, opening his account with a one-handed flaka. The Austrian is pumped up, pulling off a body drag, a wheelie skipper and a forward, all in the opening few minutes. But after a slow start in the final, Remco quickly punches back into his form again and launches a series of flakas, shove-its, wheelie skippers with several Spock variations, all scoring highly with the judges. It was the highest scoring heat of the contest, and in the end, it was Remco who took the win in Costa Brava. The PWA World Tour moves on, and the next stop sees the Stars return to Gran Canaria, this time to the famous wave venue on the east coast of the island at Pozo Izquierdo. If you didn't know it by now, Gran Canaria is one of the most popular windsurfing places on Earth, with the likes of Bjorn Dunkerbeck and the Morenos learning their skills at home here. The beach at Pozo has been transformed in recent years to accommodate these events, and once again, the world's best are here for one of the biggest events on the PWA World Tour.
Pozo is the most extreme place we have on the entire World Tour. This place is the windiest place, I think, in the world. I mean, we come here and we know we're going to have super radical windsurfing conditions. It's amazing because it's kind of the cornerstone event of our entire tour, the most radical place. It makes sense, you know. It's where Bjorn Dunkerbeck's from, and he's been the reigning world champion for 13 years. And this event is the biggest prize money event the entire year, too. And the coolest thing about it is it's just full-on extreme conditions, and the sailors love to come here because they know we're going to be sailing every single day, and it's going to be the most radical guy wins. I think the guy who wins Pozo has to be strong, he has to be mentally fit because the conditions are so challenging, and he has to be hardcore powerful, you know. And I think winning here is always one of the most prestigious things that you can do.
With the wind pumping and the waves rolling in, it's straight into the opening rounds of this double elimination contest, and the action is intense right from the start through the 8-minute heats.
This is the first day of competition, and it looks really good. The wind is very strong, so today we are doing wave riding. That suits me good with strong wind because that's what I'm most used to. So I hope for a good day, and we're going to for sure see some good action out there.
The waves seem to be coming back up here with the tide. South swell isn't ideal, but Mother Nature's definitely given us something to play with. So, and the wind, of course, is hellacious. I think at 2.9 I'm going to be rigging up here pretty soon, so you never know.
And there's a surprise. Daida Rowena Moreno decides to take a huge step, becoming only the second woman in history to enter a men's wave contest. she's pitched against Australia's veteran star Scott McKercher, who rises to the challenge and beats Daida. But watch out, boys, she'll be back. McKercher gets knocked out by Britain's Robbie Swift, who blasts his way through 4 knockout rounds with some ease. Numero uno Kevin Pritchard from the USA, the reigning world champion, is also fired up after returning to competition following an ankle injury.
You're out there, you're thinking about your foot a little bit, hesitating. Can't be doing that out here in Gran Canaria, you know, it's full-on conditions, so pretty much got to be full 100%, you know. A little bit undertrained, unprepared as far as that, but just out there doing my best.
But it's all short-lived as the raw talent and power of Frenchman Xavier Huart stops Pritchard's comeback dead in its tracks in round 3. Next, Huart faces 8th seed Vidar Jensen from Norway, who is simply ripping up the waves in Pozo, and Xavier doesn't stand a chance against such a mighty opponent as Vidar advances to reach the semi-finals. On the other side of the draw, 2 unstoppable forces fight it out, Bjorn Dunkerbeck and Australia's Jason Polikow.
Bjorn's been on the tour for a long time and so have I, so we've been in quite a few finals together and a lot of other heats, but you know, it's probably not the best thing to go against Bjorn Dunkerbeck at his home place here in Gran Canaria.
Nothing can stop Dunkerbeck at home in these conditions. A massive forward loop on the wave face shows the maestro's sheer power and control. In the same heat, Josh Angulo from Hawaii is showing his class, but Spain's young hotshot Jonas Ceballos flies higher and higher, and while Josh rides, this time, Jonas does it faster, more radical, and more tweaked. This humongous jump from the kid seals the heat over Josh, and another top scalp falls. Last year, Abaya Moreno was out all season after breaking her ankle, but now she's back, fit, trained and ready, and up-landing this tabletop in the women's final against her sister, Daida. Abaya on a wave and really maxing every part of it. Can she beat her world champion sister and go for the top spot herself? Both sisters really push it to the max, but it's Daida who wins the heat. The men's final, and Dunkerbeck launches into another trademark back loop, powering through the landing. He's won the contest year after year through the 90s, totally invincible. But Vidar Jensen has always been there, these two great friends, and now he too has perfected huge back loops like this. And he continues on with this amazing double forward, just missing the landing. A big stalled forward from Bjorn, but that somehow looks tame after the double, even if it's technically brilliant. Vidar up again, this time a one-handed forward, perfectly landed, and another high point score. Right at the end of the heat, it's a one-handed double forward by Vidar, a simply sensational move, 2 rotations mid-air and enough for him to take the final from Bjorn. Now, the push loop is another of the hardest moves to pull off. Top French star Antoine Albo explains how to nail it.
My name is Antoine Albo, my cell number is F192, and I'm going to try to explain you the push loop. The push loop is a jump. Like you have to do a 360 in the air, back ways, and land. To do a push loop you need like a nice wave, pretty high wave, like 1 or 2 meters, depending of the wind. You can do it also on bigger waves, and you just have to arrive full on the wave, like straight. And just when you're gonna hit the wave, you have to go a little bit upwind, and try to start the rotation before on the wave. When you are at your maximum height, you just have to put the head in the back like that and take your hand and try to do a rotation following your head, and just it's gonna turn because the wind is gonna flip the sail. So the rotation is really fast, and after you're gonna arrive like that. So you just have to land. So you have to push on the sail like this with your back hand, and the board's gonna go like this and land on the back of the board. I like the push loop better than the back loop because the feeling is like a high jump, and at the last moment you have to do the rotation. So it's something really fast and you really have to control it.
Moving on into the contest, and it's into the men's double elimination. The semi-final sees young super high flyer Jonas Ceballos from Spain up against the legend Bjorn Dunkerbeck. Bjorn has the experience and psychological edge, but Jonas is hard to hold down. This is his big chance to make an impact, and both go all out. It doesn't disappoint. Watch and enjoy. Jonas finishes off the heat with a massive stalled back loop, and that seals it. The legend is out. The kid goes through. History is written. The women's double elimination semi-final sees the winds pumping, with Abaya Moreno and Karen Yagi both tested to the edge. Karen's strength and skill does just enough to edge out Abaya, and the Swiss superstar now faces her nemesis once again in the final, Daida. Straight into it, and Karen gets away with a tweaked tabletop and is clearly running high on adrenaline now. Daida replies with a gloriously stylish one-handed back loop. But coming right back, it's a massive push loop from Karen, one of the biggest of the contest. And now the gloves are off, no holds barred. They might be great friends off the water, but this is Pozo's toughest final in years, slugged out move for move by the top two women in the sport. At the end of an exhausting session, it's a close call, but surely the world champion has done it again at home. The men's double elimination final, Heat 66. Spain's new rising star, Jonas Ceballos, goes against the experience of Norway's Vidar Jensen, both having honed their skills right here at Pozo. Vidar goes for the double. Awesome sailing as both risk everything for the title. The closing seconds of an electric 8 minutes, and Vidar goes for his one-handed double loop. Simply awesome. How do you better that? First though, the women's results. And Daida gets it and is on course for the world crown again. And Vidar wins at last, all these years, and finally he wins in his adopted hometown.
I think this is definitely one of the biggest days in my career, and I mean, I've been doing the World Cup now for many years, and just still being able to be up there is incredible, especially here at home.
I calmed down, relaxed out my best, and I'm really happy about the result, definitely.
With the waves completed, now it's time for freestyle in Gran Canaria. With the international panel of judges looking on, the top seeds have few problems in the early rounds, and as expected, all win their early heats to advance through to the third round. The first big shock of the day is the early exit of the reigning world freestyle champion Matt Pritchard from the USA, who struggles in his matchup against the relatively unknown Venezuelan Alexis Zabaya. With a multi-elimination format, the first series final brings together two of the most talented and charismatic individuals the freestyle world has ever seen. The matchup of Ricardo Campello and Tonky Franz is a must-see event for spectators and fellow sailors alike as they put on a freestyle masterclass. And round one goes to Campello. In the second men's final, it's local sailor Victor Fernando Lopez, who has fought through the heats and now faces Campello, who is looking untouchable. Small in stature but vastly talented, Campello uses an effective combination of new and old school moves to rack up the points. Fernandez gives it his best shot, but Ricardo is too hot to handle, taking his second victory. The first of the women's finals is an interesting pairing. Moreno, yes. Daida, no. It's Ibaya up against Karen Yagi. Karen struggles this time though, and Ibaya is delighted with her first major victory in some time. Fighting her way back through the double elimination contest, Daida meets another Spaniard, Naira Alonso, in the quarterfinals. Daida dishes out every trick in her book to win, and then sets about trying to beat Yagi in the losers semis for the right to meet her sister in the main final. With the story going to plan, all eyes and the judges' attention are on the women's final as the Moreno twins get to face each other once more. Daida continues with a clean one-footer, and with the world watching, body drags in front of her sister to tweak the pressure even more. The sisters are well matched, training together throughout the year, but it's Daida who comes back to win both this heat and the decider, giving her a double victory in Pozo and valuable points to both world titles. With freestyle the focus now, a great innovator in the sport and a leading-edge talent is Cauli Cidi from Brazil.
I'm born in Brazil. It's the south of Brazil. It's Florianópolis. It's a little island. It's a really nice place. It's like a lot of beaches. We have like more like 50 beaches or something. And when I was 12, I had a really good friend. We were playing together, and his dad was a windsurfer. And together with him, he starts windsurfing. We start together, and we always push each other. And ever since then, I was just crazy for windsurf. You know, like I dream with windsurf. I would go to school thinking about windsurf. So I just finished school, and after that, I said to my mom and dad, "Hey, I think follow my career doing windsurf." It was a pretty cool story, you know, because everybody in the beginning will support me, the little shops from where I live, because windsurf's not big there, it's like pretty small. But, you know, slowly I was getting the things and everything was going the right way. And after getting to Hawaii, I get a sponsor there with Nash, and I had gear. I had more my sport with a little bit of money. I do wave and freestyle, and I thought about just do wave sailing. I never thought about freestyle. I was pretty much training Maui a little bit of freestyle with Ricardo and Dione, but I didn't really want to do the freestyle tour. And they said, "I know you should come to the events this year," and I was like, no. And in the end, I ended up going, and I had a really good result. So since then, I still like. And I think now the future for wave sailing, it's gonna be probably like a mix in between some moves that's gonna come from freestyle, mixed into the wave riding and stuff, so it's good to be doing both.
The event moves on, and the third series of freestyle reaches its close with the semi-final stages. Victor Fernandez starts with a shove-it, barely able to hold his sail in the 50-knot gusts. And Cowley, in turn, responds, just hanging on to this body drag. Fernandez comes right back at him with another old-school move, the tweaked tabletop. Cowley, though, is starting to rip, and he sails away from this stylish one-handed back loop. Fernandez goes for a massive flaka just before the final gun, but doesn't quite pull it off, and that makes all the difference as Seedy advances to the final. In the second semi-final, Chris Audsley from the UK takes on Ricardo Campello, undefeated so far here in Pozo. With moves like this double forward loop, easy to see why. Chris valiantly tries everything he can in an attempt to upset the odds, but Campello is flawless, finishing off with a cool punch to smoothly move through to his third successive final here in Pozo. The final comes down to the boys from Brazil, Ricardo Campello and Cowley Seedy. It's an amazing final, but it's Ricardo Campello who takes overall victory here in Gran Canaria and sets himself up for a real shot at the world title. Now the tour moves on, but not too far this time. The fifth stop is due to be staged on the windswept beaches of Fuerteventura, another well-established event, well known for its consistent winds. Miles off the coast of Africa, the second largest of the Canary Islands is where you'll find Fuerteventura. With mile after mile of warm, pristine, sandy beaches, tempered by a refreshing Atlantic breeze, it's become a haven for sun worshippers, but it's also a mecca for windsurfers seeking top-quality conditions. Freestyling Supremo Ricardo Campello loves sailing here and is ready for action.
Ricardo has come onto the scene with amazing talent. I think compared to anybody else, he's the most innovative. Gran Canaria, he just blew it apart, and we're here in Fuerteventura. He has a natural skill. This is the type of talent that we're seeing across the board from a lot of young fellas.
It's always been a dream for me, windsurfing. And like since I started windsurfing, I always wanted to be good in one sport. I like to sail with my friends, invent new moves, like train with my friends, have fun on tour as well. And that pushed me a lot. I like to see where the sport is going as well, and I like to push it as far as I can. Life on tour is pretty cool, like know new place, new people, sail in different places, and we're all a family. Like now the young guys we all together, we always playing around, we always celebrating, and we always smiling and joking. It's super cool. I think young people in the tour is really good for the sport because it pushes more, and the young kids don't see us on TV or in the magazine say, they're young, so if he can do it, I can do it. I want to get the world title. I didn't get last year. I was pretty close, and I worked pretty hard for it, but I couldn't get it. It might always be my dream, and I hope to get it soon.
This event always attracts huge crowds, is well organized, and always offers a week of blistering action. After a quick single final, straight into the women's double elimination final, with Karen Yagi at the top of her game, coming up against Daida Rowana Moreno, who is on course for a double world championship. This time though, it's Karen who revels in the conditions and takes first blood. Is the world champion about to strike back? In the first of the men's finals, it's Taddy Franz who takes on Douglas Diaz from Venezuela, Cheo as he's known, both just 17 years old. These two are rapidly rising up the world rankings and are real talents to watch. And missing from the final is Campello. It's an awesome heat, close between them, and a split decision goes to Diaz. Delight all round. In the second series elimination, the semi-final action sees Campello fire back. After scoring highly in previous heats, Campello must be feeling confident as he next faces New Caledonia's Colin Sifferlin. Confident maybe, but never underestimate your opponent. As lightning strikes twice, Campello is beaten again. Sailing in the same heat but in the other semi-final, Robbie Swift is in awesome form, breezing with this one-handed spock to put the pressure on his opponent, Conan Lang from Brazil. And it's Swifty, still 18, but with a maturity and stature beyond his years, who racks up perfect scores to advance through to the final. The final sees Swift against Colin Sifferlin, both sailors on top form this year, and the result will be close. The momentum swings back and forth between the two until just before the very end of the heat. Timing it right to the wire, Swift nails an incredibly difficult combination move, a shove it into a spock just before the gun to clinch a well-deserved victory. With more and more youngsters joining the tour, it's clear that the sport is experiencing a regeneration of interest, a fact not lost on some of the veteran sailors.
Tell me something about your career. You're a pretty, as an old guy for surf sport, right?
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, call me old school. That makes me feel wonderful.
Well, when I say a lot of the older fellas are dropping by the wayside, I say this is the most exciting time in the sport for the whole time I've been in. I've never seen so much young talent in my life.
We all can see it coming, and I mean, I'm over 30 and I'm doing more waves when I have a chance, and I don't practice that much freestyle, and I don't have the same motivation doing freestyle tricks as these young kids.
One minute there's a 14-year-old beating me. I'm like, what, 14? Doing every maneuver, and it's amazing because before we did not have this type of talent.
Nowadays, 32, it looks really old on tour because you look at these young kids coming, 16, some even 14 top-level professionals.
Freestyle has done what it was going to do. What it is bring new blood in, accessibility. You don't have to live in Maui to become number one.
And it's something that I've been pushing for years to get a lot of younger people into the sport, especially on this level, because I think that any extreme sport is really determined by the youth culture. And without young people, the sport can't be that cool.
Everything they do, they make it look very easy, very fluid, and a lot of style. And that's what the judges want.
The top pros right now in this discipline are under 20. The young guys own it. We have a saying, tricks are for kids. So we'll leave the tricks for the kids.
The next women's semi-final places the Moreno twins against each other again, these two really right at the top of their trade. Despite all her efforts, Daida can't quite click into top gear, and once again Ebaya grabs her chance to take victory and move through to the final against Karen Yagi. Conditions could hardly be better as they launch into a series of flat-out maneuvers in this tense final heat. Karen Yagi has been sailing in Fuerta for years across all disciplines from speed events onwards, and her transition to freestyle is remarkable, especially as she won the world title last year. Another strong performance gives her the result over Ebaya, so 2 out of 2 in Fuerta, which puts her in an unassailable position at the top.
I'm pretty happy. If you can already know that you're going to win the day before actually the end, I knew I couldn't sail actually any better than that. I'd never expected it before the event. I knew I was pretty ready. I trained nearly 2 weeks here before, and still there was a little doubt. For sure, with competition everything is different, but I'm super stoked to have it made that clear.
And while the wind continues to pump, so does the action. Day 3 of the event, and attention shifts back onto the men's contest, where we pick up in the semi-finals of the 3rd freestyle series. While everyone is enjoying the fantastic conditions, the pace is relentless, and there are just 4 riders left. Robbie Swift is in his best ever form, now against Brazil's Conan Lang again, and looking strong, sure to reach the final. The other semi sees Diony Guadagnino from Venezuela battling it out with Bonair's Taddy Franz. Just having fun on the water is the way Diony describes his day, but it's an attitude that pays off as he takes everything that Franz throws at him and betters it. Guadagnino earns a unanimous victory from the judges to see him through to the final to face that man, Swifty. Robbie has already worked out the maths. A win for him in this 3rd final would clinch an overall victory early on in the contest. It's an amazing opportunity for the man who has not yet won an event on the PWA World Tour. Equally though, Diony is also chasing his first win in a final here in Fuerte, so both sailors are pumped up and ready to roll. Back on the beach, it's close, but Robbie takes it.
Well, we've done the calculations, no one can catch up with me, so I'm over the moon, obviously, as anyone would be. It's the first time I've won an event, and yeah, it was awesome, because to win this event where everyone's been sailing so good makes me really happy.
And now for something different. Always innovators, René Egli and his team agreed to stage a trial event for the tour in Fuerte, Supercross. Supercross is a radical new discipline which combines the speed of slalom racing and the control and versatility of freestyle. 8 competitors race head-to-head on a course which involves a running Le Mans-style beach start, followed by a series of jumps over inflatable obstacles, duck jibes, forward loops, and more freestyle moves before blasting to the finish line. Crash helmets are mandatory, body armor recommended in this incredible new venture for the sport, set to electrify interest in windsurf racing. The idea for this new discipline came from 2 people intent on seeing the sport develop, René Egli and Martin Brander.
I was here last year for the freestyle event, and after the event I was standing with René on the beach, and we said it would be great to have something like slalom but different. We didn't really have the final idea yet what that could be, but we said some kind of racing would be nice to have here in Fuerte again.
I was thinking that we need, for the spectators, for the TV, we need something new. And the best what we could present is a spectacle, is something very good to look at. And this was the mixture of slalom and freestyle. That's what we call today Supercross.
It's a knockout format with the first 4 to finish going through to the next heat. The early rounds see everyone gradually get used to the format. Ricardo Campello gets into 2 of the early finals until a collision with Britain's John Sky knocks him out of the running. Meanwhile, France's powerhouse Antoine Albo wins the first 2 finals, which gives him a strong lead in what could be 7 finals in all. Round 3 is really starting to fire now. Cowley is first away from the line, his light frame and incredible skill paying off, as CD leads from the start, holding off everyone as he takes his first win. Day 2 of Supercross sees the course change to include a stronger freestyle element after the first trials of the format. Competitors now have to land a forward loop, 2 spocks, a grubby, jump over 3 obstacles, and perform 3 duck jibes, all in a 2-minute flat-out race. Cowley's awesome form continues through the next 2 rounds, often finding himself 100 meters ahead of the rest after only 300 meters of racing. His planing forwards make him almost untouchable, and despite a few wipeouts on the way, he still scores a first and a third in the following 2 finals, edging his way closer to the overall leader, Al Bow. The final day of competition, and all eyes are on CD and Al Bow. It's between them alone now. Cowley knows he has to beat Antoine in both the scheduled rounds to take the title. One more victory for Antoine swings it his way. Round 6 is a full-on neck-and-neck race, which sees Cowley narrowly take victory. Now with both Cowley and Antoine on equal points, the final race is the decider of this first ever Supercross event. A strong sprint from Cowley at the start, but Al Bow powers into the lead and soars over the first jump. The Frenchman is in control and going for broke. Into the first jibe, and Al Bow is overpowered, crashing out, leaving the door open for a wobbly jibe from Cowley, who has to avoid the fallen Frenchman. Now Cowley falls on his trick, attempting his normally smooth grubby, but he's soon up and away. CD takes the third jump cleanly, duck jibes the mark, and is clear away as Al Bow and the rest of the pack forward loop behind. Heading towards the finish line, and Cowley falls again on his final trick, the Spock 540, but manages to keep the sail upright, his lead sufficient to hold on and keep going despite the pressure. The final jump, and Cowley does it. He knows he's the champion.
I'm super stoked to, to win the Super X. Actually, I was stoked already to be second. I never expect to do good on it, so it's the first time we trying. In our first place, I guess it's really sweet. So I don't know what to say anymore. I'm super stoked, and happy to be here in Fuerte with the high wind. It's such a big emotion, jumping the buoys and doing other moves, and everybody's so racing together and trying to jump over each other. So it's good fun.
Switching to Sylt in Germany, the World Tour Wave Contest is decided here. Daida Rowana Moreno comes through a blistering final to win her 4th Wave World title, and Josh Angulo, a man at the top of his game, shows the youngsters how to sail and comes through to clinch the World Championship title. A fantastic success for him after so many years on the tour. From Europe to the Caribbean, and the last stop on the tour is in Bonaire for the Freestyle World Finals. The perfect conditions in Bonaire are back, and into the action at the King of the Caribbean contest with 4 double elimination rounds scheduled. Some of the old stars are missing. No Baker, no Pritchard, out of contention this year through injury, and quite frankly, perhaps out of touch with the young kids here. No one is over 25, and the top seeds are all under 20 years old. Freestyle is fluid, ever-changing, and still evolving. Robbie Swift and Ricardo Campello are tied in first position overall going into this event. There's nothing between them, and either can take the title, but Swifty is injured, a handicap that could tell. Daida Rowana Moreno heads the women's rankings, but Karen Yagi can still walk away with it by winning here. While the world watches the contest live on High TV each day on the internet, the standard on the water is incredible. Campello is tweaking, twisting, and turning his way through the heats and reaches the final as expected. Next day, the second series is underway in lighter winds, and it's still all action. The men's single final sees Tonki's brother Taddy battle through the heats to face another impressive Campello day. Taddy has a point to prove after Tonki's performance though, and he really pulls it out of the bag, landing a switch stance chacho to take the heat and delight for the local enthusiasts. Daida comes back into the women's contest after a night to reflect, and this time there were no mistakes as she exacts revenge over Karen in their final. Darkness prevented the double finals from being staged on the same day, so after a break, it was the usual suspects in the doubles final again. Ricardo took the battle to Taddy Franz, but not even his talents could hold back a flawless performance from Taddy, even nailing a switch stance Chacho Diablo pirouette. Hard enough even to say. Ricardo's natural brilliance could not hold up, and Taddy walked away with the result. Daida was in no mood for mistakes this time in the women's double elimination final, and while Karen battled hard, Daida was elated to be back on track and square away the event, winning this heat and keeping her in the running for the world title. But the contest is not over yet. With strengthening winds, the third series gets underway immediately. Campello's mind is firmly fixed on the world crown, progressing to the single final again, with Taddy also right there and on the pace. So, a Taddy Franz Campello final is repeated, and with another insane display, Taddy pulls it off, seemingly raising his performance a notch higher through each heat. A sensational result over the world champion designate Campello, as with the injury to Robbie Swift, he can't be touched now. But now there's yet another twist in the women's contest as Karen Yagi fires back against Daida. Another solid display, giving her the edge at the event and still with a chance of the world title. Daida is shocked by the result, but Karen edges into the lead and is set to perhaps retain her title. After a long session with perfect conditions again at Lac Bay in Bonaire, Campello sweeps past Cowley City to take on Taddy Franz again in the third double elimination final. He wins the first, forcing a resale, and does it again, this time Taddy unable to halt the Campello machine. The pendulum swings again in the women's contest too. Karen is taken down in the first leg of their double elimination final, and Daida crushes all opposition in the resale. It's a smoothly controlled heat that leaves Karen wanting as Daida regains her grip at the top, taking a 2-1 advantage after 3 remarkable double elimination finals. So, the fourth double elimination looms, which will decide all, and there's a twist or two left yet. Douglas Diaz from Venezuela suddenly finds his form, always threatening here, but finally getting it right to defeat Campello in the fourth single elimination semi-final. Shock for Campello, but he has another chance. Taddy Franz has sailed brilliantly here and stays the course to face Diaz in another final heat. This time though, Diaz takes his chance with an outstanding two-can 360, the move he invented, and a full repertoire that Taddy couldn't match. A result which could well keep Douglas on the podium for this week. Daida kept her cool in the women's final, and the knife-edge battle with Karen Yagi tipped in her favor further, winning with an impressive display of old school and new moves. But finally, with just the fourth double elimination to complete, the Caribbean winds that have blessed the event for 4 days take a rest, and Mother Nature calls enough. The final results stand. Daida Moreno is crowned the Queen of the Caribbean and PWA Freestyle World Champion, while Ricardo Campello achieves his long-held dream of not only achieving the King of the Caribbean, but at last the PWA Freestyle World Champion. So after a tough year of competition that has seen the standards and the skill raised to ever new heights, the final rankings look like this. Josh Angulo is the 2003 Men's Wave Champion, with Bjorn Dunkerbeck second and fellow Gran Canarian resident Vidar Jensen third. Daida Rowana Moreno is the 2003 Women's Wave Champion, with Karen Yagi second and Ibaya Rowana Moreno third. The men's freestyle ranking rests with a young Ricardo Campello in top spot, with fellow Brazilian Cauli Cidi second, while Swifty drops to third. Daida also takes first in freestyle for a fantastic double world championship year, with Karen Yagi second and Ibaya Moreno third. Micah Buzianis from Hawaii takes the men's formula title, with Wojciech Brzezowski second and Antoine Albo third. Dorota Stazuska takes pole position once again in the women's series, with Verena Fauster second and Karen Yagi third. Cramming a year into just a short hour is tough, especially such a year of evolution which has seen a new discipline, new world champions, new moves, and new people. The Professional Windsurfers Association World Tour is the elite level of competition, and the new generation are coming, the sport is changing, and a new era is upon us. Watch this space.